Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Concerned Citizen. I hope that you're doing well. My name is Matthew, and yes, I am concerned. Oh my gosh, I've recorded this video so many times, and I just haven't had the right feel for it. Let me take off my seatbelt. I'm on my lunch break. And the polling is just all over the place, so I don't know. I think that if you're a Trump supporter, you're probably feeling pretty good right now in the sense of like, lots of the media and even some YouTube channels are indicating that it's an uphill battle for Kamala Harris. And other people are saying not so fast. And to tell you the truth, all of this news has made me really addicted to watching videos. I'm not sure about you, but I haven't been able to sleep. And I think that I wanted to do this video as kind of a therapy for all of us who are really concerned about Trump winning. And I think that the thing that I would want to just point out here is that there's certain demographics not captured in the voting, right? So you have lots of younger voters who are not really being polled, who hopefully will have some influence in this election. You have a large majority of women going out to vote. And I see in some states like Georgia, they're just saying like, hey, the Democratic turnout is good, but when you compare it to the Republican turnout, it's slightly higher. But and also if you look at independents, they are a third of the turnout as well. So independents, when you look at it for Democrat versus Republican, looking good on the Republican side, but when you kind of break down that potentially where independents are going to go, and also you add other factors of, hey, there's lots of conservatives and Republicans not for Trump this time around. I'm not saying that Trump not going to win, but I'm saying I'm trying to use this to make me feel better. And there's a reason, because all of that data kind of makes sense. Now, there's lots of polling that are coming out, and a lot of people say, like, hey, the 538, and all these other pollsters and other organizations, as you get closer, it becomes more accurate, and, it's not looking good in some of these states for Kamala. So, why is it so close? I mean, a lot of it has to do with the economy. And I always say this, no matter if a Democrat or Republican is in office, I really don't like when the stock market is used as an indicator. It was used under indicator under Trump that Republicans used to support that, hey, your 401k is doing great. Isn't that wonderful? In the meantime, when Trump was elected, I'm going to go back a little bit, Hillary was projected to be the winner. And where I worked, the company was announcing like, hey, there's going to be a raise. The minimum wage is increasing for salaried individuals. And when I saw that Hillary had lost, I said, hey, everybody, this is not going to happen. I know lots of corporations have talked about it, but I just saw in the news that this has been reversed. It's not moving forward now that Trump's in power. So think about that minimum wage. You're thinking about your cost of living increase. Not going to happen. And what happened? Obviously, they backtracked. Why would anyone, like let's say for a business, give money if you don't have to, right? So as far as the wage increase, that didn't happen. And that was an impact directly, automatically when he went into office. I was like, there's real time, but people were just oblivious because later, if you were able to put money into 401k, a lot of people were like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. You know what? I'll admit it. My 401k did go up, but guess what? My 401k went up, is now up under Biden as well. Again, the stock market being used as a measurement. But here's the thing. So if the stock market and all of that is doing well, then why are people still saying the economy is bad? Well, one, you look at the prices of goods and everything, right? Things are a lot more expensive. And you think about corporations, even though COVID and all that other stuff has gone down, they're still leaving their prices high. So it's really crazy. I understand the struggle of every day what people are experiencing. A lot of people don't have money to put away into the stock market. So regardless if you're under Trump or Biden, when you say, hey, the stock market's doing good, you're like, okay, that's wonderful, but guess what? I don't have enough money because I'm trying to struggle to pay bills to even put in the stock market. Or what I have is not a significant difference. Like, this is not anything huge to me. So the other area is abortion, which favors the Democrats. Economy kind of favors Republicans, right? But abortion definitely favors the Democrats because you see time and time again that people are coming out to vote during the previous elections, and state laws where they're having this reversed about, having it on the ballot that it's a woman's right to choose, and the Republicans are in a losing position in this particular area. The other thing that I think that is why it's so close is that you have this cult that is really devoted to Trump. Recently, I live in upstate New York, very pockets of red areas, and unfortunately I live in some of them, near some of them. I drive into the local town and I see Trump for peace, and it's like a completely like brain smacking kind of I was like, oh my god, this is like a brain fart moment. I'm just like, or just hitting me like, this doesn't make sense. It's like certain foods that don't go together. Let's say like chocolate on top of pizza. It was like, it just, what? So I think the cult mentality, I think in some ways Republicans are very good at messaging. They're very good at their kind of really branding, and it really does stick well. But there's other people on the opposite end who are tired of being angry. And this is where I think the 50-50 split comes from in regards to this kind of area. In regards to immigration, it's so interesting in regards to immigration when I look at it. Because for me, I saw like, hey, lots of people coming through, which to be honest was be expected when you have a border that is cut off and then you have inundation of people just building up waiting to come into the country. Was the way it was handled the best? No. But immigration has always been kind of an issue as far as legal, illegal immigration. It's interesting to see how many immigrants, second generation and on, have really supported Trump. And it's really funny because I saw this one with this group where they said, hey, all these people in this audience, they're all legal citizens, immigrants. They're second and third generations. So they feel a tendency to feel safe. And I do think, like, for the Hispanic community, because I feel a little more comfortable speaking there, right, is that there's people who want to fit in. When you come to this country, you have a desire, you're part of the American dream, you believe in it, and then to have a group accept you and say, hey, support this guy, he's against this. It's interesting how quickly they will turn against people who are trying to pursue the same dream as them. And some of these individuals have come into the country illegally and then still will gain citizenship and still support Trump. It's very interesting. So I don't understand it. So it's interesting. So that's why it's close. But I want to go into the other parts as far as like where this election and why it gives me a headache and why, the polling and what I see on Facebook and all the signs. Like when I drive, I found more signs for Trump than Harris. But in the majority, I see most people without signs. And I think lots of Democrats, including myself, don't have signs up. But the narrative between Trump and Biden was that Trump was the better candidate because Biden had cognitive issues. He was too old. They were criticizing about releasing medical records and all this. And now that Kamala versus Trump is in play, total silence or near deafening silence on the Trump side about how old he is, about some of his behavior going into tangents. I saw a recent video where he said, they're going to take away your cows. They want to go after your windows. I was like, what the heck? And everyone was like, oh yeah, that is so true. Good job, Trump. So I'm like, okay, that is so crazy. So it shows that there's a hypocrisy there, in my view, of what everyone says is okay to criticize for Biden, but when you actually give the same criticism to Trump, it's like goes one ear out the other. Recently, they just had like a video of like Trump, serving fries at McDonald's, because this is all in counter argument that did Kamala really work at McDonald's? And I want to just point out something here. When Kamala said, I worked at McDonald's, and she goes, I just want to point out something. I worked there as a kid going through college, and, I wasn't a person that she saw when she was working there that were living off of this income, that this is how they were supporting their families. So Kamala did recognize that as far as the empathy that she had, she could see, like, only could imagine that. Now, she did not experience that firsthand, and I see people like kind of saying, does she really know? No, she doesn't know what it's like to support a family under that income. But she got to see it firsthand when she was a kid. When I worked in a factory, I got to see many people supporting their families under this income. And I was going to college at the same time too, and it was not really good. I mean, it was hard work, but you weren't treated like a person, you know? And I felt really bad for lots of these people. They deserve to be treated better. So, I mean, with the polling being so close, I was like, you know what? I'm going to say that the young vote's going to turn out. Women are going to turn out. I want you all to think about this too, because this is what I do to try to calm myself. It helps a little bit. I said, Matthew, did you vote? I go, yes, I did. All right. Did you get at least some people in your family and people that you know to vote for Kamala? Yes, you did. Okay. You know what? I thought voting early, to be honest, I mean, it saves resources. So they're not contacting me to say, like, hey, Matthew, vote. And they're putting their funds elsewhere. But I thought it was going to make me feel better. Because it was going to be like, oh, I can sit back, relax. But then when you put in your vote, and they're saying in the polls, it's not enough, it kind of really kind of messes with your head. But I just want to encourage people who have not voted to not listen, have your voice heard. I've been talking to family members in my family. I have one that's supporting Trump. I went to a party and then they put the Fox News on. And I know why they're voting for Trump. It's because, well, one, they've never involved in politics before, and because their partner's voting for Trump. So that's all they know. And they love their partner, and that's where they're going to go. And I have another family member that's not even motivated to vote at all. So, you know, I think that it's going to be very interesting. Looking at the demographics in regards to the groups that are voting, and they're paying attention to, is women, young voters, Hispanics, which is, you know, not so great for Kamala. I find it baffling myself being Hispanic, but, you know, I mean, there's Puerto Ricans who do support Trump, okay? So I'm not going to speak for all Puerto Ricans. It's hard as a Hispanic to speak for your community. I only can speak to my perspective, right? I don't think that Trump cares about the Hispanic community at all. If you go into your job, I want you to answer a question to me. How many of you actually feel that your boss, owner, CEO, actually cares and empathizes with what you're doing and actually believes that you deserve to be paid fairly? And how many of you actually believe under that leadership of that boss that you actually are being paid fairly? That you're making, you know, means to be able to support your family and able to build wealth within your family, to be able to save for 401k and retirement and maybe pass on a home or even own a home. If you do, then that's great. And I could see why then, as a businessman, you're going to say that Trump is great. But for me, I'm like, how many like business leaders have I seen that? I think there are a few, right? I'm not going to say all, but who are really caring about their employees and their well-being. And I don't think that that's the case. I saw Trump throw toilet paper or paper towels at Puerto Rico, but there's another component that sticks with me as there as well. Is that he kind of blamed Puerto Rico in regards to, you know, asking for funding and kind of like for the hurricane that occurred there, and kind of put the burden on them, like saying, hey, this is, you know, your responsibility. You're looking for like a payout from us, you know, and you've taken a lot from us and already. When Puerto Rico, you know, has lots of things that the United States have done to really kind of disable it or cut it off at the legs. You know, one of the good examples is that when you ship things to Puerto Rico, it can't go directly to Puerto Rico. It has to skip, it has to go to New Jersey, and even things that are made in Puerto Rico has to be shipped out and then go back to the New Jersey port and then back in. So like Puerto Rican rum and stuff. So it's like really crazy in regards to the cost that adds to the goods that people are buying in Puerto Rico. So for me, like him saying that, I was like, okay. Him making fun of a disabled person, I mean, that says a lot about you as a person. And I'm like all about like your character and whether you should be trusted. I mean, Trump's already a liar. So I'm like, okay, you know, the way you treat people, what people have said about you, it's really crazy. On The View, you have Alyssa Farah Griffin, who, you know, joined the Trump party. I think she kind of explained it like she thought they were doing good. They're going to do something to help people. They like really supported his policies. Already right there, she lost me because I was like, okay, policies you're supporting? Okay. So when I look at the policies that he had and what he was saying, I was like, this is who he's going to be. And then all these things that he did, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty much who he is. I recall going to a fair up here in New York, the state fair, and a woman was talking to my mom, and she had said she had to pull her daughter from school because at that time, the rhetoric and division between, let's say, Hispanics, immigrants, and that was so bad that her daughter was getting harassed at school. And she was just saying, you know what, this man is saying these terrible things, and I had to pull my daughter, fear out of safety for her. And that's the things that we were experiencing. You know, there's people who are like looking at it like, I was getting a good 401k, but there was other people who were suffering under Trump, you know? So, I don't know, you know, it's crazy. I mean, you have the other demographic of older voters coming out, right? And some of them are supporting Kamala. In Florida, you have a large community supporting Kamala Harris. You have men who are leaning towards Trump, you know, in a significant margin. And that's between white and black men as well. Now, I should say for black men, they say, like, you know, the black community is still in favor of Democrats, but they've kind of lost their footing, just like the Hispanic community. More people are gravitating towards Republicans. And it's very interesting. I just want to point out something. When people said, like, I got that check from Trump, and that's why I'm voting for him. Well, first of all, it was a bipartisan, you know, Democrats and Republicans coming up with that check. Trump had stalled it, and, you know, then was MIA after he lost the election, and then they were like, is he going to sign this other relief check? Is he not? We don't know what's happening. And then Democrats had to kind of agree, which happens in negotiations, to a smaller amount, right? And then Trump goes, I want this amount, which wasn't going to happen because it already, you know, was across his desk, and it was the same amount the Democrats pushed for. It's like, what the heck? So when people say that they get this check, you know, from Trump, it's very interesting because Republican policies are not to take welfare and money from the government to support yourself on your own. So that check that you're getting is not something that's going to be permanent. It's not even part of the Republican kind of agenda. So it's kind of interesting how those people go, I got this check, I like him. And then you're like, okay, listen to the Republican kind of narrative and their policies, you know. So I think that there is the thing with Kamala Harris that a lot of people don't like her because she's a woman. And you could tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a large part of it. Because I've seen so many people say such terrible things about Kamala Harris. Like saying, you know, she's a whore, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And I was like, what the heck? That's what they're saying? It's really dumbfounding. Like, if you want to talk about our policies, sure, but why are you going after her as a person? I mean, you go after Trump as a person because of what he said. Like, I don't see how you can call out anything that she said in regards to, in the same capacity, you know? So, I'm not even sure if I made anybody feel better with my poll discussion. I mean, I'm watching it. They say, don't forget, the polls are kind of compensating because what they believe as far as they should be compensating for in their small sample of 1,000 individuals. And in the compensation, it kind of favors a little bit more of Trump. But the youth vote is not counted in there. The compensation for women's and the Roe versus Wade being overturned is not compensated in there. You also have the anti-Trump movement in the Republican Party not compensated in there. You also have lots of independents kind of leaning a little bit more towards Trump or Harris. That's not compensated in there. So we will see what it comes. If Trump wins, then I just say this. You know what? We just have to be there to support and kind of call out Trump and what he does and remind people like, hey, it's not great right now. And the other part is hopefully, as far as the Senate and House, hopefully the Democrats get elected in there, because that will create a dynamic shift with Trump being president, but having a Congress and House, which is not in his control. And could that be temporarily possible? Who knows? Because then there'll be another election that could further shift, things in Trump's favor. So let me know what you think. This might kind of ramble. I'm watching the news, addicted. You probably are too. Take care, and let's kind of discuss what we're concerned about. Bye.